That's Hi, everyone. This is Wendy Van and Alex Van, and we're here again with Dr. Mary Atkinson. You can find at hashtag Heart Happies, and her sister Vicki Hensley, which you can find at Vicki Hensley Assemblage Artist. And they have joined us again today for the second part of Ascension, the video we just posted. And we had lots more questions, so we thought we would try to do this again. And I wanted to make sure, I know we've got several videos out there already, but I wanted everyone to really hear some core things that we want to emphasize. One, this is a very safe and sacred space. And so every walk of life and religious background and orientation or gender or any of those kinds of things are welcome on our site. And we truly value everyone's opinion. And there are no basic questions. Any question is accepted. And I wanted to really encourage people to reach out. If you have anything that's on your mind, you can message us or put a post out there, and we will include it in getting information for you. So today I wanted to start out with Miss Vicki because she had some really great growth experiences after the last session. So I'm going to let her start out, and then she has some questions for us. Go ahead, Miss Vicki.
Thank you. I wanted to tell you about my experience after last meeting, which was, I guess, on the 7th. And I had already had a feeling of moving to a higher level. I was starting to get a lot of things down. It's been an experience for me to actually realize I can do these things, and I will. So I would say that the first 2 words I have about what happened after that or during that are power and resilience. And I was also became aware of a sense of importance. Those are all things that I tend to push away because, I'm a Christian by background, and you don't do all these compliments to yourself. Oh, you're powerful, you're resilient, all that. And I became really aware of I'm important. I have a role to fulfill, and I am changing right now for that. The crowning point of all that, and coming from a Christian background, is a lot of what I discuss, because a lot of what I've learned there transferred after I'd been studying metaphysics a few years. I realized there were similarities. So I am a new person. Now, whenever I was a Christian, in 1 Corinthians, there was a verse that said, any man in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things are new. And so I had that scripture memorized, and I would use it because it was one of my tools to fight Satan. And you'd say I'm a new creature, but I never even attained any confidence in that, because I'd think, oh, as soon as you quit this, all that's going to go away, and so I never had faith in myself. But I finally realized, y'all have pounded it into me so many times, you're a new creature, you create who you are. But all of a sudden it was sitting there at gut level. And, my defeating thoughts are things such as, I'm not doing enough. I fail repeatedly when I try to study metaphysics, or because I have this sister who just came into it and she realized she was up here. She stays up here. And, there's no way to even compare us because we're different creatures and all that. But still, I would compare myself to others, which I know is very bad, but meaning, and there's not good and bad. That's another thing I learned. It's just not the thing to do, I should say. And in all of that, I realized, Vicki, that old person has passed away. Alex really talked about how we are, we create ourselves. That old we are putting on a new armor. We're preparing for what's coming. And therefore, I realized I am already a new creature. I just hadn't taken possession of it. And I feel like I'm giving a testimony, but honestly, it was that powerful that I'm like, I can do all this. I am not a failure. I am consistent. It is only my mind that criticizes me and judges myself and tells me these things. So just the power to know that I can do and I will do all these things right now, because I would have a way of saying, oh, I know I'll be a new person in a few years. Metaphysics works quickly. Meaning if you apply it. And it was just there. And, you know, part of it also was accepting the good and the bad and understanding there's really no difference between negative and positive. It is how we tag them, how all these old patterns of mine come up. Well, once again, I'm, you know, I've always kind of feared those old patterns. Oh, they'll come back. The thing is I claimed victory over that. The old patterns are gone. And I believe that I'm building on the new. Finally, I want to read some of Gabriel's words that really spoke to me. Your body is coming in line with your soul, with the soul. The other side is pulling me up to a space where I have so much more power. I have many more connections. And that just, I thought, this is what I have that I have not claimed. And I tell you, I have this new confidence. I have this new zeal. I have this hunger that, because all of a sudden it's not fruitless. I'm not going to quit. I know that. But the backside of me goes, oh, you'll quit this someday. But I'm not. So I just had to share that because it's a really big deal for me.
That is a really amazing testimony. It is. It's all right to say that. And I think that we run across and I know we battle this ourselves, so many people who have spent a lifetime kind of beating themselves up. And it's really hard to shift that mind into something that we have value. It almost in the same way that we take on like, oh, well, I had an abusive past, or I had all this stuff from my family. And yet we won't accept that I also had people in my family who taught me work ethic, who taught me, you know, all these great values. Like we discount that positive side,
Right.
you know, concentrating only on the negative side. And I know for myself, I've had many, many clients that get so stuck in that anxiety, so stuck in that loop of worst case scenario of, you know, I'm not good enough. I won't ever be good enough. And changing that mindset is, I think, priority number one for me. I think that may be one of our first questions is, how can we shift that mind from basically kind of tearing ourselves down to understanding our value?
Yes.
How about that, Alex? Would that be a good question to start with?
I certainly think it might be.
This is Gabriel again.
No.
Oh, who are you?
No. Hello. I am Baal, old Egyptian god. Been in many different places. Really just kind of a supervisor. To be fully honest, it's really what my job is over there. I just supervise a lot of things. I get a lot of things done, but I just supervise most of the time. I'm very good at this, but the question was?
The question is, so many souls spend their time kind of beating themselves up, not thinking themselves valuable, or get stuck in anxiety or worst case scenario every time something comes up. And it's almost like a loop in the mind where they cannot get out of that to see their value or to see that things will work out. How can we help them shift that mindset?
People have this assumption that kindness is about action, is about doing something for someone. That's not what it's about. there is an action associated with kindness. But kindness itself is an energy, an acknowledgement by the person and the one stepping into the path, the one receiving. That energy, which could also go by gratitude, and sort of an awareness of what you received, is key to it most of all. And the difference between someone stuck in that cycle and someone who can break themselves free is someone who can give that to themselves.
Kindness to yourself.
Who can be grateful and kind to your own self and the parts that have been hurt. That is how you break it. You show love and kindness to yourself.
So when a negative thought comes up, or when something comes up where they're getting stuck, being able to shift the thought into, you're doing your best. It's okay to take a nap. It's okay to take a walk. It's okay to say no.
Yes, because there's also this idea that like self-care is passive, is this sort of thing where you pull away from people. That's not what that means. Self-care is doing whatever is necessary to satisfy the need to love that self. If that means someone is going against you and treating you poorly, that means standing up to them. If that means that you need to back away, then back away. But it really is contextual and dependent on the situation. And the thing is, you know exactly what you need. You just have to be able to get clear enough to see it.
So trusting our intuition.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, Miss Vicki, I know you have some questions.
Yes, the first one is, last week I actually transcribed Gabriel's words so that I could say this correctly. Mentioned that in the first part of the meeting, you talking about passions that we have that are really just a part of avoidance. Should I read that part to you?
So I think I remember this was sometimes when we kind of have certain things we do and we kind of really get into them. It isn't because that's our purpose and calling. It is because we're trying to avoid doing what is, our passion and calling.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we do those things to escape.
Okay.
Is that the point?
It says we lose. It says feeling a loss of self in which, and this is whenever we're talking about ascension, we lose a lot of triggers and pain that are within me. Then it says it guides you to a lot of passions that were really just avoidance.
Yeah. When we go to that stage of releasing that old framework he talked about last time, like releasing all the stuff that was kind of constructed in our mind as this is the way things are. Yeah, sometimes we realize, oh gosh, my love for my games on my phone or scrapbooking or whatever was really because I didn't want to deal with my family, or I didn't want to really.
Or a more concrete example might be something like, let's say your family insists from a young age for you to be a doctor. And on a soul level, that is your true passion, to step into a situation and save lives.
Mm-hmm.
But because from a young age you were told to be a doctor, you reject it. You go into other things, you find passion in those, but those are actually really based in your spite and anger towards your family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as we go through that process of kind of tearing those things down, we realize, oh, that's why I'm doing this. It kind of starts showing itself.
Mhm.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you may have a rule in your life that is just the way you live because of childhood that you don't even realize. Okay.
So it's a construct, it's a mental thing you believe in, which you find at some point is faulty because it was not from, like Bob was saying, not from your real passion or spirit driven purpose. It was because you were reacting to something.
Now, it should be said that even though it is from pain, it can become true over time, even after you lose it. That's the problem with making absolute statements about these things, is that people are different. The same person who goes through being raised to become a doctor and then doesn't, then finds passion in other things out of spite, could genuinely start to find joy and accomplishment and connection with that new life, even though they never even wanted that life in the first place. They just wanted to spite someone else. There can come joy out of darkness.
Okay.
So when someone is realizing like, oh gosh, I created this whole life out of what I thought other people wanted me to do, what I thought my parents wanted me to do, what I thought my partner wanted me to do, instead of who I truly am. First of all, that can be very disrupting.
Mhm.
But what can that person do to move towards what they really feel like could be their passion?
Well, the issue that comes about in that process is the idea of being able to tell what your true passion is. That's the hard part. Because after so much time doing other things, it's difficult, isn't it?
Mhm.
So really what it becomes about is however you find the way there, because it's different for everyone. You have to find a way to settle all parts of yourself and listen to what's underneath it all, what you really want.
You know, sometimes with my clients, I often say, what were you passionate about, or what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were between the ages of 5 and 7, when you were young? What was it that you were passionate about then? Because typically that is more what the soul is expressing. It's after that society and other people lay layers upon us, and we change what we think our passion is.
And to state also, passion is not the only driving force. There can be a person who is not following their passion, but is doing exactly what they need to be. That isn't exactly the right place they need to be. That is helping people that otherwise someone of their kind or predilection or background would never be in, but needs to be there to give different perspective or ability to a situation that those people wouldn't have.
Excellent. Yeah, I get that. Okay, Miss Vicki, what is next?
Well, I think that this may be really have answered, but I'd like to ask it more on scaffolding. Those parts of my identity that were more negative and therefore define the positive aspects. We just really covered that, didn't we?
Yeah, but I think there is probably a deeper question there also, because I think that may be a brand new connection to some people who watched the first video, which is we construct, or as Gabriel said, the scaffolding that we create about ourselves is really in large part the mental scaffolding and construction that we create for ourselves. For example, maybe you grew up knowing that you should be helping others, but at the same time, there may be, thoughts put in there that then you can never receive anything back, or you only give and you never take. Like, there's mental constructs sometimes prevent a natural flow of giving and taking to occur. And we have to dismantle sometimes those old thought patterns. So I guess my question is, when people run into where they have these mental thoughts that are causing more problems now than being helpful, how best do we kind of dismantle that or change or evolve it, I should say?
It's a larger question. You know that. You're asking a very broad question that has many different answers depending on the person and the background. And to give one specific answer for everyone, I'm not going to be able to. I can tell you two key things that usually happen. One is this starting of awareness that always happens, no matter what process, no matter what background. There is a starting of awareness of the scaffolding as a whole. That is important. You have to see it, not just as individual sections, not just as individual screws and bolts, but as a whole. Back up and see that scaffolding in its entirety. That is important regardless, because when you can do that, you not only see where it all connects and where all the points of shared interest are, but you see, how to describe that? You see the purpose behind them. You see the purpose behind each step and slat in that amalgam. And those purposes are your ammunition. Those purposes, those reasons, those justifications are your ammunition in dismantling it. Because those are these individual pieces that you would never fully understand unless you knew the piece next to it.
I don't want to leave Mary out. Do you have any questions right now, Mary?
Not yet.
So you kind of got that last part with the scaffolding and awareness.
My question will be about scaffolding, but in a bit.
Okay. I think that that's an interesting way of looking at it, because I know when I work with clients, awareness is our first step. It's always key. We can't really move forward until someone awakes with awareness of whatever that is, whether that is a thought pattern, a habit, a behavior, that they become aware of the situation has to occur first.
It's interesting because a lot of things I'm going to say are counterintuitive, because what we're talking about as a whole is the ideal process, is the ideal way something would work out. You would become aware of the whole scaffolding, you would see the purpose behind them, and then you would slowly start to deal with the pieces. That's not how life works, is it? See, we're talking about this ideal situation that someone would find themselves in. When in fact, most of the time what happens is you blindly walk into that scaffolding, see the different pieces, start taking it apart as you're going, and then mess things up or do something you weren't supposed to, and then you end up in a place you never expected to be.
Yep, that happens all the time. Yeah, Mary.
So
Now I have a question.
yes.
Okay. I'm in a real quandary because I'm in a place I've never been before. And I don't know exactly where to go. This scaffolding has been dismantled. I am sitting here, I am in an empty box, and I feel like I went from dragging around a steamer trunk of stuff to whatever you can fit in a zippy bag. I don't know what to do with what's in the zippy bag, and I don't know how to start reconstructing this framework. And basically, I feel like I'm sitting here. I don't have a map. I don't have a GPS because I've not been here before. And I feel like I need a direction, a guidance, something to help put myself back together. And where do I go from here? What am I supposed to be doing for while I am waiting for whatever's going to happen? And so I'm just basically a little empty box sitting here with a zippy bag in it.
Good description.
Very good description. There's a couple different ways this could be answered. In determining what would be the best one for your situation. I'll go with the suggestion that someone gave me because it's an apt description. So when we build scaffolding, we build it out of, I'm going to use the term good and bad pieces. Even though good and bad is not representative, we build it out of these good and bad pieces, these pieces that assist you and these pieces that don't. And when you dismantle scaffolding, you end up with a pile of, guess what? Good and bad pieces. So first thing I would suggest, take inventory of what is inside the zippy bag. Because there might be some good pieces in it. There might be some screws or bolts that are helpful. Second note, you built the first scaffolding. So you have the knowledge and ability to build a second. But in going forward, what you have also gained is an awareness of what is useful, of what is helpful to those around you. And a note on building scaffolding is that scaffolding is not built, a person is not built within the mind. A person is built through experience, through time spent, through activities, and your emotional reaction to them, or non-reaction. And that's going to sound weird, because you would think you go into a situation and you don't react to it, nothing happens. That's not the case. What you're building is a choice. That's all scaffolding is. It's just choices and their aftermath that define how you approach a situation. So the answer to your question is live. Live and decide who you want to be by your reactions and choices of how you respond to the world. And that will be very different than it was before. And over time, that will build. And over time, you will make a new identity based out of this emptiness and love you hold. And that will be its foundation. That will be its basis.
I will also say, remember, scaffolding is built from bottom up. So the bottom pieces need to be the core. So what is most true to you? whether that's love of the creator, love of your family, whatever that is that you hold most true. You know, I am a creator myself, creative mind. That's a big process for me. So that is a key element. And so that needs to be at the base of the framework.
An interesting exercise at some point might be for us, you know, the three of us who meet regularly, to talk about how we see our scaffolding, because we might be able to inspire the other one maybe to see a little bit more or something. So, because that was a completely new concept to me last week. So,
Yep.
I want to applaud that idea because that is at the basis of how your world functions. It